Welcome everyone to another episode of Confronting Our Thoughts. We're in pretty good routine right now. I think this is our second recorded episode in like 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I know that's but for us in this time of year with fall, this semester with work, that's a good thing to hang our hats on. So shout out to us. Um, but we could just get right into the first the first topic we want to cover. I guess the first story we want to cover, which we usually never do this. We usually never go over um, present events. What's the word I'm looking for? What are the people like?
Current
Current
events.
Current
things.
events. Thank you. Yeah, current events that impact because I don't. None of us are really up in the news, um, and
I mean,
rightfully
this isn't
so.
really news anyway. It's kind of just our personal things we're interested in that we think could be valuable to talk about, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, and it happened to someone that we all three of us have been maybe I guess following is the right word for the better part of a decade, which is pretty crazy to say. So we'll just get right into it, and I'll let Zach take the wheel from here, and then we can all just give our thoughts and opinions on.
Yeah, so all three of us listen to this artist by the name of Mike. It used to be Mike Stud, but now it's just Mike now. Little name change. And there's some stuff behind the scenes that happened with one of the people that is in his crew, so call it, like his friend crew, that the people he brought along with him that have been with him for this whole like music career. And there was some stuff going on behind the scenes that just got brought to light last week in a podcast. So basically, long story short, this person was the boots on the ground. This person was the boots on the ground person for this brand, Stevenson Ranch, in Nashville. He was basically the guy for merch, for like he was Mike's guy in the field, because basically just like pushing the Stevenson Ranch brand out there and making connections, just like networking and things like that. Come to find out that he was not doing like any of that, and he was basically like taking advantage of all the trust that Mike put into him, and ended up using a company card that Mike gave him for purchases that weren't related to Stevenson Ranch or like the company at all. Like some things might have been, but most of the things that were being spent were personal entertainment things like Ubers. And that includes like Uber Eats, like Ubering to go somewhere to, um, designer stores, massages, first class flights, like Airbnbs, like all this entertainment stuff that has nothing to do with like for the homies or like Mike's brand, which the card is like linked to. And this was going on for quite some time. And I think Mike like had an idea about what was going on a little too late, obviously, because it was going on for a year or two. But he was such a lenient and cool boss that kind of got the best of him, because he kind of wrote these things off like it's fine, like yeah, it's for the company, until it was too late. And then he actually like looked at the numbers because they weren't making the profits that they should have been making. Because Stevenson Ranch, I guess in Nashville, is humongous, huge brand. I have no idea, but I guess everyone's wearing it out there. Um, but yeah, basically he looked at the numbers and basically saw that he like went over it in depth, but there was like a whole year's worth of transactions like added up to like 6 transactions per day on the card, which is like 6 a day for like over a year, which is crazy. And these aren't just like a Starbucks coffee. These are like $20,000 sometimes, just like one transaction added up. And I think it came for like the one year was like $850,000 that was just kind of poof. Like he wrote it off as like for the company, but it was all for. You can chime in too, Tom. I think that was the number $850,000 for 1 year, and I believe he had the card for 2 years. So there's like this whole legal situation going on, but it's going like really really slow. So I think he probably just got tired of his fans like wondering what was going on. But that's basically like the gist of it, which is just crazy. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, just to give people like a little more of the background, like Zach was saying. So like this guy, we can call him, his name's Ben. We'll just say Ben Foley, but Ben for simplistic purposes. He was always like the merch guy. Zach and I remember going back in his concert when we were freshmen in high school. Like we'd buy merch and like this guy would be there.
mhm.
But which is like typical, right? Usually artists do have like their merch guy, but this is a unique situation because they were like, at the time, really, really good friends. And Ben was really young. He was like, I think he came on to Mike's team and like when he was like 16 years old or something. Zach, was
Yeah,
it
it was
something
like
crazy?
15. Yeah, like 15.
Yeah. So throughout Mike's career traveling, becoming more famous, he always had this merch guy, always had this merch a guy. And then um Mike started transition into like a little more of like a country pop artist. I guess that's the best way we can describe him. And so therefore he's spending time in Nashville. Like became friends with Hardy, Ernest, Morgan, like name dropping some pretty hot, like popular country guys in Nashville. And simultaneously, he started this Stevenson Ranch brand. Um, and so therefore, this guy, Ben, being always his merch guy, it only made sense for Mike to be like, hey, Ben, you can basically, like Zach said, boots on ground in Nashville. Hey, I'm going to be, this is like a country brand, in lack of for like it's like a country wear, like flannels, like trucker hats, like cowboyish clothes, but like more like anyone can wear. Anyway, that's not the point. And so therefore, Mike like let Ben have the card. He was getting a salary. He said it was like around like 50 grand a year, which everyone's like, that's not a lot of money, live in Nashville. But Mike said, like, this is a very easy job. Like, this isn't, you work for maybe, I mean, he could put a number, but I think we'll say like maybe 10 hours a month. Like, it wasn't something that it's not a full time job. So he's getting literally paid like a salary. And he was like, I'm going to move to Nashville. Mike was like, okay, here's the company card. This is for obviously, if you need to go, whatever you're doing for Stevenson Ranch, here's a card. Basically, and that was in 2021, 2 years passed. And then, like Zach was saying, the numbers just didn't add up. They're saying that Stevenson Ranch is just as popular as like a Barstool brand out in Nashville or something. Like he's a well-known brand because of Mike's new, Mike's new trending music in Nashville, or the country pop music. And then so here we are, and like what Zach said, and like over $1 million and like 6 transactions a day. That's like how much someone puts on their own credit card. Like if that, like, wake up, get a coffee, get gas, get groceries. I mean, and that's like 3 transactions a day. So he was doing that, double that on a company card. So it was just like wild. The point of the story is to not only get Luke caught up, is to be like, man, this was someone who Mike trusted for a decade and, turned on him. I don't even know is the right word, just like took advantage of him to the absolute fullest. And so there's a lot of
Yeah,
things to learn from this from a fan perspective. Um, like watching Mike go through this is that, trust can be a really, really hard thing to give someone, but also like maybe always keep your P's and always keep things in check, even like when you're in a situation like that, when you have friends that are, or just people, I guess, running your business, to always kind of keep them in check, which is shitty. I don't really like to admit that. I would like to be able to be like, hey, if we were to ever do a business, us three, I would be like, hey, you know what? Like, Luke, like go do, like, can you go Nashville and do this thing? I'd really appreciate it. Like, here's a card. Like, I wouldn't want to have to check on Luke every 2 weeks to make sure that the card isn't being spent on, miscellaneous things. But I don't know. I think So it's shitty. And it's like, that's why this is a complicated situation. This isn't just some random person. This is someone who Mike's been friends with for literally over a decade. And so I don't know, we can start like giving our thoughts on that. Like, how would you handle that situation moving forward? Or how would, if you were in a situation like that, how do you go about that? Because like I said, I wouldn't want to have to check up on you guys, or vice versa. If Zach was our boss, it'd be shitty for Zach to text us every 2 weeks, like, hey man, saw this purchase on the card, like everything good? It's like, oh yeah, whatever. But
I mean, it's wild to me how much money was spent. And he talked about in the podcast how he was aware of some things that he kind of just like brushed under the rug. Like he said multiple times how he tried to talk to him and like get him to just like change his mindset and just realize that he's not like he like a bit about his like ego. Like he's not the person that he is explaining to these people that he is. Like if from what I understood is he was basically like acting like he was the artist and like he was the guy, which is like not is so far from the truth. Like then come to find out like the stuff through the grapevine too, like a lot of the designs and stuff like weren't even like Foley's. Like he would pay people. He was
well, tell
paying
people
people
he
to
would
like,
pay people, like when it
or yeah,
that
or
happened a couple
yeah.
times too. Yeah.
Basically, like other people were doing the designs, so Mike was paying Foley the salary, plus Mike was paying these other people he had no idea about for the designs. So it's just like he was paying like multiple people without even knowing. And I think the craziest part to me is the amount of trust he had in him. And to even still like this day, he said like his plan was to give Stevenson Ranch like the brand to Foley. Like that was the whole point of him going to Nashville and like getting that experience. And he was gonna give him the brand and like have him like take over the reins, which is just like crazy because he had so much and could have so much more, but he just like I guess like took advantage of kindness.
Yeah.
And I I don't even know how I would deal with that, but it's actually really interesting to see Mike's response to it because I would think I would be like super pissed, like fuck this guy, which he is like to an extent, but it's more like
Yeah.
I hope this is like a wake up call for him and he gets his shit together type of thing. And I would just be like fuck this guy, but I don't even. It's like true growth from Mike on this new like pathway he's been on, which is
Mm.
awesome to see as a fan, but it's just very surprising that that's like his response to all this, which is also just like a testament to where he's at in his mental fortitude and all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, you got any comments? And like, there's a podcast episode about that, obviously gives details of exact purchases of like, there was some crazy, like on Uber Eats alone, because it's an Amex or Amex. So you can categorize your purchases within the year and be like, okay, how much was spent on food and drink? And it was like, which by the way, no company card should be paying for someone's food and drink unless they're like, I don't know, maybe ever paying for someone's food and drink. I don't know what company would do that. Um, because that's like you would yeah, anyway. But it was like a stupid amount of, I mean, like a six figure, like, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to butcher the number, but insane amount of purchases on food and drink on a company card. Like that's the, like, not on someone's, hey, your money, you can do whatever you want. On the company card, it was like over 50 grand of like a yearly purchase on food and drink on a company card. It's crazy.
Yeah,
So these are things that like, I don't know. There's not like, ah, shit, maybe I shouldn't have spent like, if I was getting a rental, maybe I shouldn't have got a rental of like, the Lamborghini for the work trip. But it was like, no. It was that times a million, of how much shit was going on. It just puts it in perspective of, what does it put in perspective of? I guess to
you
just
gotta be
choose
self-aware,
wisely.
man. Yeah, you gotta be
Yeah.
self-aware too.
Choose wisely. And then, yeah, I guess, is
Like
there an
trust
aspect
your
of,
intuition.
yeah, Yeah, and then if you want to do something, you got to be all in on it. Like, because Mike's perspective on it was that, like Zach was saying, he wanted to focus on music, and Stevenson Ranch was growing bigger than him. That's how Ben took advantage of it, because people were wearing Stevenson Ranch and didn't even know who Mike was. So therefore, Ben knew that and be like, "Hey, I'm the Stevenson Ranch guy. Now I'm bigger than since Stevenson Ranch is bigger than Mike. Ben can be the face behind Stevenson Ranch, and therefore he can be bigger than Mike. Like that's the idea, because in Nashville, particularly, and so and obviously to Mike that was fine. He wanted to focus on music. It was well, he thought it was making him money. Really, like well, it should have been making him a ton of money. And
Bro,
so
he
yeah,
said like the profit, the whatever the
crazy.
numbers were for a normal business, the profit margin or something was like 40 or like 90 like percent or whatever, and their profit margin or whatever the number is was at like 3,
Yeah,
which is just like a normal curve was at 40
yeah,
or 90, whatever, and his was at 3. And they were making over $1 million for the year, but the profits weren't adding up because it was being
yeah.
spent. Like,
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, because like obviously there's things that you write off in a business, right? If you have a clothing line, if you are make $1 million, like if you get $1 million in sales, 50% of that will be spent on the business itself. So it's like, okay, really, I'm profiting $500,000. He was making $1 million and profiting like 10 grand, like a stupid amount. But in his mind, it was like, okay, we're just constantly putting money back in, constantly putting money back into the brand, and it's growing. But really, they weren't putting money back into the brand. They were putting money into Foley's lavish lifestyle. And that lavish doesn't even do it. It's like a millionaire's lifestyle, like millionaire lifestyle, like rental cars, like $1,000 for like dinners, like 5 star, like crazy stuff. And I guess we can put this into like full circle how this relates to us, besides just seeing someone really get damaged by another person that we care about, is just to like I said, choose your circle wisely, and to actually take that into heart. Because like people, you say that, and then you're like, oh, I hang out with these guys, are cool, and the next thing you know, like a year or two later, you're like maybe you're doing like business with them and stuff. So I guess just to always be mindful of who you're surrounding yourselves with, and if there's something that you don't vibe with on a person, maybe you should address that internally. Like, is it okay? Why am I judging this person based off their actions? Or like actually say like, hey man, like what's up with this? You know what I mean? Like Mike said, he always knew like Ben was always just awkward and like a huge pothead. If I'm doing business with someone and they're a pothead, I'm probably going to address that. And a pothead meaning like high more times than you're not high. That's my definition of pothead, like daily weed smoker. I just don't think that breeds a good mindset towards anything in life, let alone a multi-million-dollar business. So yeah, I guess that's a kind of a quick lesson, is just to like, if you're going to get into serious business with someone, really look at their lifestyle, look at their habits. And I know it sounds serious, but when you're working with a 7-figure company, it should be that serious. And you're going to completely just give them the reins and be like, hey man, this is all you. Let me know if you need anything type shit. Like that's crazy. You got to look into their lifestyle. Any closing thoughts on that, Zach?
no, I think we hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. Luke, anything?
Now that's just wild because we've been following them for 10, yeah, like you said, like a decade, and we
Yeah.
kind of grew up on these guys, and it's a sad situation, but I can see both sides. Like you just kind of get caught up in the fast lane, and you just kind of
That's a good way to put it.
forget. Yeah, on like Foley's side, and then for Mike's side, just kind of blinded, got his kindness taken for weakness. So I mean, definitely, just got always got to stay self-aware, I guess. Even though you want to see the good at everybody, but at the end of the day, that's just not how it is. It's the sad reality of life.
Facts. Facts. All right. Well, since Zach and I kind of spoke a lot about that topic, we'll skip over. We'll come back to the one I wanted to get on. But Luke, you wrote down in our outline, what is the impact or the effect of suppressed emotions? So you want to give your initial thoughts on that, or where your head was at when you wrote that down?
I don't know. I was just kind of like, I built up some walls, I feel like everyone has in life. And when you're trying to, like, I don't know, break down those walls and try to experience maybe some some new things or try to change some aspects of your life on the day to day. I feel like I was just at a point where I was just like, of all the things that maybe I didn't like or didn't express in like to some people, or if I didn't like a situation I was in and I didn't explain myself to someone or just didn't write down these things, that it just kind of gets bottled up like, inside of me, or you just kind of carry around this bag. And I was just kind of thinking of like the effects of that. How does it affect me? How does it affect the people I'm around? Like, am I just acting like a different way? Or yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where my head was at with that. And I just kind of want to open the floor with that kind of topic and see where it goes, you know? Like,
Yeah,
what was
Zach, you can
your,
give your initial thoughts.
Yeah, I think everyone suppresses some type of
Mhm.
emotions and ideas. Like sometimes people hold their tongue and they'll just push it back. I think that's a normal thing for everyone to do, but the idea is not leaving it suppressed for like an extended period, because I think that's when it could come up with the people you're around, and maybe it affects your attitude and you won't even really know that that's what is affecting you. So it's something that's kind of like in the shadows. It's kind of how I would think about it, because it could come up no matter like the time of day, no matter what's going on. Like something could just spark something that you suppressed before. So I think it's important to kind of be aware of what you're suppressing and kind of have that internal dialogue with yourself to like sort through them as best you can, because if you just keep suppressing things, that's just going to add up and add up and add up, and then it's just going to at one point explode. So it'd be better to deal with it a little bit at a time, so you can kind of minimize the negative effects that could potentially happen with that.
for sure?
Yeah, something that just rang in my mind when Zach was talking, and this is to his point, but like the vast majority of people who suppress their emotions don't know they're suppressing their emotions. Like that's the thing. It's like you don't, you know, and so the point, so then you get to the point where it's like, okay, well then how do we allow them or yourself in this manner to like to just be aware of your emotions, and it's just a check in with them or and in yourself, I think. Like and then not check in, like actually get into a deeper conversation with them. Like, how do you feel on a daily basis? That's like it's a pretty good start for someone who you know is maybe not nearly as in tune in with their feelings or as aware of their feelings as you deem they should be as a friend. First thing you do is just like I truly ask them, like, hey, when you woke up today, like, what was on your mind? How did you feel? And a lot of people, it's very, very, no, sorry, I don't say a lot of people. For some people who don't know they're suppressing their emotions, it's very surface level feelings, or it's very just monotony. It's just like there's no high, there's no low. Um, and then that's usually a sign of like, okay, this person probably isn't even aware of their feelings. And so, like, how do I get them to, how do I act as a catalyst into getting them to start looking internally into themselves and be like, hey man, like you should feel good. Like on a good night, if you have a good night's sleep, and you're like, and you're not sick, like you should feel good. Like, do you not feel good? And a lot of them, like, they don't feel good or bad, And I don't know. The point is just like that's how you can kind of spark that. You can kind of spark that fire, as you will, into someone that you care about that you deem is not necessarily being as in tune with their feelings as you think they should be.
Yeah. I mean, I exactly remember where I was with this. Like, yeah, like I had one of those days. I just like woke up. I'm like, dude, like there's no reason I should not be feeling good. I woke up. I'm healthy, and I think that's like the biggest thing is just like when you wake up and you don't feel like good, but you're like, oh, I should feel good. Then there's a certain point where like, oh, I'm just grateful for this day, and you know how we all do that, and we're just trying to express gratitude as everybody should. But at the same time, when you're doing that, I feel like you're just kind of shoving that baggage into your bag, and you're not really allowing yourself to release those emotions because you just want to. You should be happy. That's what you're kind of telling yourself. You should be happy. You should be grateful for this moment in time. So it's like just a different lens, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back, we talk about this all the time. It just goes back to this balance between looking forward, look like being excited for the future, and then but also like just being grateful for what you have. It's something that I think, you know, it's the battle that never ends in a sense, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like there's times where you know, like me personally right now, I'm so excited for the future that it's like, wait a second, like and so therefore it's easy to feel good. Like our brains love when we look forward to things. They love when we have a
Mm-hmm.
plan. They love that. Like all those, like this is obviously way up more Zach's wheelhouse, but like our brain is actually, it releases chemicals, you know, to like, when we do plan out our future, the brain's like, yes, 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 this feels good. This feels good. All of that being said, that's not the present. And like, who knows what the future holds? And so I'm not saying you can't do that and not take advantage of that, because I think you should. You should take advantage of those your brain's mechanisms in a sense to have a plan and like to feel good forward to the future. But with that, just be grateful for this November 5th day. You know what I mean? Like it's this hard thing. Just going back to, and I think when you're totally in the present, it's hard. It's hard to totally be in there. You know, it's like, I'm grateful for today, but you're damn right. I'm also excited for the future. It's that balance is so hard to achieve. So.
Yeah, I think if you're living that life when you're constantly looking at the future and being excited about the future, that can be good, but also be bad. And it made me think about if someone's working a job that maybe they don't really like, but they're
Mm.
working the job because they need to get that experience to get where they want to be, they might be looking forward to the future too much because they don't want to be focusing on the present because their present kind of is just not, it's negative and it's just not fun to think about because they'd rather just think about what's gonna happen instead of what is happening. So I think that can be a problem in itself too. So it is the balance. And I had a couple conversations about this like idea last week. Two people kind of talking about how they're so excited for the future and they can't wait for the future. I'm just like, well, yeah. I was like, but like, hold on. Like, what about like right now too? Like, you can't just forget about the present. So it's a hard balance to kind of keep intact and hearing it out loud when someone's talking about it, like it sounds good, but you have to actually like not only have them try to practice like what you preach, because you also have to make them aware of like the present is also important. And that can also reflect back to you. Like you have to know that the present can't just be overlooked. You can't just constantly look at the future or the past. Like all of these things are intertwined together.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Like, yeah, it's addicting. Looking forward to the future is addicting because it feels good because you're constantly, like all the bad in your current situation you can erase because you're like, hey, the future is going to be so much better. But it's like at the end of the day, if you never practice what Zach said, if you never practice the the activity of gratefulness and mindfulness in your day-to-day life in the future, then that's never going to come to you, right? Life never gives you this silver platter of things to be like, hey, now you can officially live in the present. It's just not how it works. um you need to start
This might come back
practicing it now.
to this might come back to like that whole Foley situation. He might have just got to that point where he's just like, oh, where I was in my life, I'm in the future now, but like he may or may not have practiced a certain thing, and that's why he was out there spending all this money. You know,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
he,
it looks, yeah,
yeah,
sorry, I do, but it looks
no,
different
you
in
get
everyone's situation is
it.
different, but it's usually with the
Yeah, I'm
same
just saying.
mindset of like, hey, it's okay. Like, I know it's a lot of it's like day-to-day habits too. It's like, you know, I know I shouldn't be doing this today. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Or I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't be doing this today. So, but I'm not going to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow comes. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I know I should be doing this today, so I'll make sure I don't do it tomorrow. And like vice versa, right? Things you know you should be doing, but you're not. You know, we're so easy to just put things off, put things off, put things off, um, until you get a real wake up call. You know, and who knows? That's the issue. It's like who knows when that's going to come. And so let's just practice being like mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually fit, in lack of better terms, for that moment where it comes, you know. and this is all with being said, I think goal setting is important. It's important because our brain is almost meant to set goals and to look forward to goals. So just be mindful of it, that our brain loves that. And so therefore, when we're totally focused on the future and totally focused on the future and those goals, that we say, okay, I know why this feels so good. It's because of our brain and the way it works. Let me have a balance. Let me be mindful. Let me just be aware of this feeling, and make sure that and the best way to do that is like journaling, and, and obviously having real like present conversations with people, that really get you in your moment. Yeah. Anything else on that, gentlemen?
I'm good there.
So, and this can honestly, it's a pretty good transition into, I was listening to Chris Williamson podcast, Modern Wisdom, and he was talking about, we all, this title of enlightenment, right? We always, when you get into the spiritual world, or you start meditating, or, practicing yoga, or just practicing being present, the goal is like this title of enlightenment. Like, I want to be enlightened. I want to have, constant enlightenment. And from his experience, he's been, meditating for decades now, and really started practicing in his mid-20s. I mean, he's in his 30s now. And, from his experience, he goes, your goal or your idea of being enlightened is maybe not what you think it is, or at least not in this day and age. It can't be. And so, sorry, let's title, what is our picture of enlightenment think? When we think about enlightenment, what do we think about? And I think about just being totally present, like totally, like my mind is totally on the now. I'm constantly, every meal that I eat, I'm constantly in the present. Every conversation is, I'm constantly in the present. I'm never looking ahead. Like, that's the ideal enlightenment, right? That's enjoying your life to the fullest in each and every second. From his experience, he goes, that's just not the reality. The reality is that the more you practice meditation, the more you practice being present, yoga, whatever it may be, your days turn into more sporadic moments of being present. If you start off meditating for the first month, you might realize, hey, maybe once a day I get a feeling of presentness where I'm just totally present, that one split second. And then guess what? It's back to the distractions. It's back to the rustle and bustle of life. And then maybe after a year, it goes to 2 to 3 times a day, where it's like, holy crap, I'm having this present conversation with someone, or, while I'm exercising, I'm just totally in the moment. And then it transitions into like maybe a dozen times a day after a couple of years of meditating. He goes, the point is that, that is also in his mind, like, that's a successful enlightened person, is that through this time of all the distractions and all of the ideas are looking ahead, that you're still able to be present for maybe just one or maybe a dozen times a day. Like, that is better than not being, present at all. But this idea that you're just going to be 24/7 present in the moment because you meditate for a decade, once a day, like, that's just not realistic. And who knows? It's coming, like he said, he caveated this with like, hey, that's just my experience with it. I could be wrong. There could be, I guess like meditation, or, meditation guides, or those people who like, nope, I feel present 24/7. Like, kudos to them. But he's like, from someone who, has goals and, looks forward to the future, enjoys his life, I found that like my present moments, my sporadic present moments, increase throughout the years when I'm meditating and being mindful. But never ever has it been like a full day of mindfulness or a full week or anything. It's just, honestly, he just said it's not a realistic expectation to put on yourself. And yeah, I just wanted to, I guess the question for you guys is like, do you guys feel that when you do meditate more, like if you were to have a good streak of meditation sessions, or maybe just like Zach, you had your like your time where you were off Twitter for like a couple months, or I don't know how long it was specifically. Like, did you find yourself being more present, or yeah, what are you guys' experience with that?
Exactly.
I just want to say I'm still off Twitter. So Twitter's
Yeah.
Twitter
Okay.
or X is gone. I mean, during my first few weeks of it, I was not more present because I was doing other things in place of Twitter. So I was
Mm.
going on Snapchat more. I was going on YouTube more, which I mean, I think I expected that to kind of happen. But the more and more I got away from that and filled my day up with more things, the less I went on my phone. So it just kind of worked out like that. Um, I think for me, I don't really, I guess, meditate in a traditional sense, like sit down and in quiet,
Keep
or
going.
like I don't put like a video on. Some people put a video on and uh go through like a guided meditation. Like I don't really do meditation like that. I'm, I guess, meditating in my way. I call it just like sometimes I just look out a window or go for a walk and just try to be present in that way. Um, and I guess I found that when I'm in those moments, I have a good ability to stay present. But the transition to keeping a present focus during the whole day is tough for me because I feel like there's so many things that I want to do in my day-to-day life, and I have trouble with pushing things that I know I have to do, but I push them back, which doesn't make sense to me because I'm gonna have to get them done anyway, but I'll push them back. And it's not like I'm doing anything different or something that is important, but I would like to be more focused in that sense so I can be more present with what I want to do. So that's what I'm working on currently, is trying to make a to-do list and figure out what I want to spend my time doing and then be present doing those things, whether that's like homework or like cleaning or just like whatever I want to get done during the day. I want to be able to focus on that and stay present when I'm doing that and not try to jumble up things and work on something that I don't think is that important to me. So I've been working on that and getting better at it. So I recently just got back into like journaling consistently, like every day, and reading more and just like looking more introspective because I found that that helps me and just makes me feel better about myself. And I think in the long run, it'll teach me to kind of be more present and focus on things that, like, instead of just going through the motions and like day by day type of thing, it's like one thing to the next. It's just like really immersing myself in my journal or in my thoughts or like reading this book or what have you. So I'm trying right now to be more present, more mindful, so I can be like sporadically enlightened throughout my days. But it's difficult.
Yeah, Luke, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I love what that guy said, like how he's been doing this for so long and he just never truly perfected it to where he can do it all day. And that's just how it is. Like that's you won't have that all day if you can just be grateful for those small moments when you can just say like I'm just here right now and I feel good and you're grateful for it. And I've marked those down in my life too, like where I just have maybe two, three, four, 5 moments in the day where it just gets loud, like it gets loud in your thoughts and you're able to just bring yourself down and like not all that shit matters right now. All the future stuff or whatever's going on. You're just here in this moment doing whatever you're doing. And I think it's just built within us. I mean, we've always just been competitors and we're always just trying to perfect our little techniques in our everyday lives. And we want to do all these things so perfectly, but it just won't happen. And I think we beat ourselves up for not being perfect, but if we just have those 2, 3 little moments and keep practicing ourselves and be self-aware and just conscientious of our day, and when we have those moments, we'll be all right.
Yeah, I think, everyone just hit the nail on the head, and we can, I don't want to chalk this up as being like, yeah, this is something that you can't perfect, so just chalk it up to this reality. But in my mind, the reality of, I guess we could say this is a self-improvement, conversation, is that, listen, there's like good times and there's quote bad times of self-improvement. I don't even like using the word bad. There's, I guess you have experience of a good days in a row or weeks in a row or months in a row of like this great habit that you formed, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation. And then there's times throughout your journey where it's like, dude, I haven't journaled personally, I haven't journaled in like a week or so, or 2 weeks. And then, um, and I guess just the point of it is that, what is the point of it? Is it's just like, forgive yourself, have compassion for yourself, but know that you could always get better. Like that's okay. Like but it's not beating yourself up over not getting, not journaling today, or not meditating every single day, um or maybe being on your phone or being on social media, more than you would like it to. But also knowing that, okay, I have room to grow. Like I do have room to grow. I could delete me. I know I could delete YouTube. Um, like there's things I could do better, and like that's okay. And that's also like, that's a way for my mind to be like, hey, there is, the future can look, brighter in this sense. But the reality is that, like, this day and age, or just your life in general, it's never that black and white. It's never this linear progression. It's just constantly trying your best and forgiving yourself, and but always being like, hey, we could always be better at this thing. But
Okay, let's
yeah,
go like into that question. Exactly, when you went into deleting Twitter, like what was kind of like your process of, what were you thinking? Like, what was the goal? What would you think would happen when you deleted it?
good question.
I think I thought that I would probably re-download it because I was going on it like so much, which is why I wanted to give it up, even though it was just to like pass time. Like I wasn't doing anything, I guess, bad on there. Just more times than not, if I had like some free time, I was on Twitter. So I didn't really want to do that anymore. So I just wanted to kind of see if I would be able to give it up. So that kind of just wanted to do that. And I expected that I would re-download it, but um throughout the process, I just found that it was easier than I thought. The hardest thing for me, which I think can be applied to a lot of things in life, is we think something is going to be hard, so we don't try. But I thought it was going to be more difficult until I actually did it, and I was just like, this is really easy.
Mm.
So I think that can be maybe applied to like our life. If you think you want to do something, but you're just like scared of what's going to come from it, if you just do it, you might find that it's actually easier than you thought it was. Because I would have never
I
known.
heard that.
I would have never known how easy I felt unless I tried it. So I guess try more hard shit and see what happens.
I like to tell
Yeah.
myself, if someone
Oh,
else is
sorry.
doing it, like, why can't I do it? And it's not like there's a difference, there's a line between like, why can't I go play in the NFL versus like, someone is, if someone, it hasn't been on, social media in a month, like, why can't I do that? You know what I mean? Like and I'm not saying that I always have that mindset, but when I'm feeling some resistance on something I want to change in my life, I'm always like, wait, if I'm the first human being ever doing it, that might be a little frightening or a little
Mhm.
intimidating. But the reality that, like, hey, there's people who don't have any social media at all. There's people who, don't even have a smartphone. They still have this. So like, therefore, I can do it. So sorry, Luke, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna like ask, like, what was more of like, where did you see yourself like being when once you achieved like set goal, like mentally?
Of
Exactly.
not going on
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like what did you kind of just like expect to happen,
yeah, it's a
Like
good
when you
point.
first did it.
Just like being more literally more present in my
Mm-hmm.
day and doing more things that I wanted. So I wanted to read more and journal because I got away from it. I just wanted to do more things that made me feel good instead of using my spare time to just scroll on my phone because
Yeah,
that does nothing for me. Nothing except maybe some funny memes, which is what I use Twitter for. But like I wanted to just be more like keep my mental in check because I feel like I was like it was like a routine. Like if I had some spare time, like I'm picking up my phone and I'm fucking scrolling, and it's just so like repetition, repetition. And it's like not doing anything for me. So I just wanted to be doing something else with my time and like building up my mental focus again.
Yeah, it was just a rush of dopamine just on demand instead of actually
Yeah.
putting in the work to achieve it. Absolutely.
100%. I think this is a very simple, not easy, a simple way for us to kind of take home message for all of us is to simply look at our days, what we're doing throughout those days, what makes us feel bad and what makes us feel good. The things that make us feel bad, and like I don't use the term bad, like I don't know, like for me, I like when I'm like binge watching a Netflix show, like when I did in the past, I never felt good. Like after I did it, I always was like, damn, you know, I ignored doing the dishes or I stayed up too late. Like the show was the emotional roller coaster of the show, if he was that good, was never worth the feelings I would have after the episodes. You know what I mean? And it might be my fault for not having the discipline to like cut it off after one episode, but I just couldn't do it. And that was just an example. And then anyway, I've been getting this itch to like, the seasons, I'm not going outside as much. I'm like, let me start like a Netflix show again. And then I was like, wait, I know like that never made me feel good because I always like during the week always like put me behind the curve of like getting stuff done, trying to get better early. And I was like, hey, that's something to be mindful of. And those are just little things. And like Zach, it was Twitter. He's like, I wasn't feeling every time I go on Twitter, I didn't feel like better about going on Twitter. I just like something to pass time with. And that doesn't mean you can't have good. There's absolutely great. I mean, I bring up social media things all the time on this podcast. We all do. It's not saying that you can't have those, but truly like just take inventory of what you're doing, especially on social media, because there's so much of it. And to just like relate that inventory with what you're feeling at that time. And like, I mean, just challenge you. If you don't feel good, if you don't feel good after an Instagram binge, literally of an hour, like, yeah, maybe you should maybe take a break from Instagram and see how you feel after that. I bet you would feel good, or you just wouldn't feel bad. Like after, yeah. But
It's
yeah, I
just
mean, it's a
amazing
very
me.
simple, but it's effective. So sorry, go.
No, sorry, I didn't cut you off, but it's just amazing me that we all do this to, well, a certain extent that, oh, I shouldn't watch this. Like your body and your mind is literally telling you, oh, I shouldn't watch this. I should just go to bed. I'll feel way better in the morning. But you just decide to do it anyway. I don't know why we do it. I mean,
Delayed
honestly,
versus instant
yeah,
gratification, and
absolutely,
and that is in like
absolutely.
the smallest things. Even like a conversation that you're like, man, I really don't want to have this conversation with someone on a Thursday night if I'm tired. But they're asking if they can talk to you, or like, you scheduled it. That little bit of like, hey, hold on, 24-hour, and I mentioned this before, 24-hour Tom in mind, 24-hour Tom, what will he want 24 hours from now, me? What would I want myself to do right now? I would want myself to be present. I would want myself to be active in this conversation. I would want myself to just not take this conversation for granted. So that's what I'm going to do. It's going to suck. It's not what I want to do, but I know down the road, I'm going to thank myself for doing it right now. And you can literally use that mindset for every decision you make throughout your day. I promise you. Hey, it's 9 o'clock. I know I should be going to bed, but my phone's at my bedside and like I want to scroll. What's the morning me going to want me to do? The morning me is going to want me to turn my phone off, put on do not disturb, read a book, or just put the light away or whatever it may be. That's what I should be doing. I mean, for me, it was when I was going out, this is what I would tell myself every weekend. And it was finally you get to the point, and I would never, sometimes I would chase that instant gratification of like, let me go get a couple drinks out with friends. And then in the morning, I would say, damn it, I knew I didn't want to do that. Why did I do that? But the more times that you follow that intuition of delayed gratification, the easier it gets, especially things. And one of our good friends, Lucas Jabana, just texted me yesterday. He goes, dude, I think I'm done going to the bar. And it was the same thing. He's like, I just don't feel good. I'm over it. Like every time I go out, I tell myself I'm not gonna enjoy myself. And then, but I still like do it just because like, well, there's a chance that we could have a good time. And he's like, it's just constantly chasing instant gratification, and I'm just done. I'm done doing it. But yeah, food is a great, like, diet, exercise, sleep. It's constant. Relationships, it's constant. Like I like when you don't want to hang out with someone, but they're asking you to hang out, like and that's a shitty thing, right? Because you don't want to say no to people. But if you truly don't want to hang out with them, there's probably a good reason why. Maybe because it's not, they don't think about the same things as you do, or you guys just don't get along or don't have good conversations. Instant gratification versus delayed gratification. The instant gratification is not having to feel bad to say no, and so therefore down the road, you'd be like, damn it, I knew I shouldn't have went on this 3 to 4 hour conversation. I wanted, or go out to eat with this person. I wanted to stay inside and get work done or whatever it may be. So yeah.
Yeah, I think just do what you want to do. Last weekend, I skipped out on a Halloween party because I didn't want to go, and the people there got COVID. So that's just the
Hey,
way it works sometimes.
hey, listen. But yeah, I mean, it's just if you're getting that gut feeling like, man, I really don't want to do this, and it's probably a really, really good reason why you're not doing it. Like, or I'm sorry, it's probably a good, like, you should really listen to that feeling. And like for me, it was like, it was like going out. Like every time, like I was like, I don't want to go do this, but my friends are like, hey man, just come out for like a drink or so. I was like, all right, I'll go do it. It's 1 a.m. and I'm like, I didn't have a good time. Like now I'm gonna be tired for Sunday. I'm gonna want to get away. Every weekend it was the same thing. Until I finally was like, all right, I'm listening to this, and yeah, it's best decision ever.
Yeah, I kind of did that this weekend, dude. Like, this is the
Yeah.
first weekend I actually went out to some bars and just didn't have a single drink. Friday, Saturday, no, just drank water. And like I just had this picture in my mind. I was gonna wake up today and I'm just gonna get after it, but that wasn't the case. It was crazy just to think like, well, I still have like the Sunday scaries, but uh, even though I didn't drink, but it's just the dopamine rush of just being just constantly stimulated in the bar, just like listening to music, being around your friends, being on all that, and it kind of goes to show like that's literally kind of what it is not even the alcohol, but it's just being stimulated by all these people and music and stuff. It's just it's crazy.
Which is to Kevin, that is a good experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
But when
I had a
you
great time last night. But
exactly, but when you topple that with 4 or 5 drinks or 9 or 12 drinks,
mm-hmm,
like that's where the feeling in the morning, it takes away from that feeling of that just natural sober feeling of being with people that you enjoy, or good music, or just being around a ton of people, like going to a stadium or bar. It's fun. It's just
mm-hmm.
as a society, we've always coupled that with like, well, just get an alcohol buzz or get drunk, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of is like, I hate that person who ever started that, because it's so much better to wake up the next morning after a good night with people and feeling good because you didn't have 5 drinks.
That, and like you connect with people naturally too, like
And you
instead of
realize the
just being in this.
conversations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah.
conversations are real too. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you don't talk to like the people when you're drunk, the people you talk to, you like don't really care. But like when you're sober, you're like, oh no, I want to talk to people who actually like know how to have a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great point. Like I said,
Yeah.
with all that, it's way easier said than done, especially in today's society. But just like, man, listen to yourself. I promise, listen to yourself.
If everyone's thinking about doing that, going out for drinks, but we're not getting drinks, just drinking water, highly recommend. It was a good time. Had a good time.
Yeah. And if you feel proud of yourself, because it's not easy to do. You
Mm-hmm.
feel proud of yourself, and then it's like that domino effect. All right, now Sunday
Uh,
morning, I just went through like I had resistance from drinking. I got through that resistance because I didn't drink. Okay, now I don't feel like going to the gym. Oh, it's resistance. Let me go through this resistance. I feel way better going to the gym. Let me get a good night's sleep. A little resistance because I want to stay up and play video games or watch football. I'm getting over that wall. And then next year you build that weeks, months, years, and you look back on yourself and you're like, damn, you have no idea how productive you can be when you just choose delayed gratification time and time again.
that too, and it comes back to like one of the conversations we had with about saying no, like just that whole. Oh, I'm just gonna say no to that shot, or like what I would be like. Oh, like all my friends are like they're taking a round, and you're just like, I can't do that tonight. But no,
Yeah.
it's nice when you just kind of try to really practice what you preach, and it really turns out in a good way at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you're going to get resistance from your friends. And a lot of that
Absolutely.
resistance comes from them getting those same feelings that you're having right now, but they caved. I've caved plenty of times too, and I've been that friend
Absolutely.
to that
Mm-hmm.
when I had a sober.
It's like, just have a drink. Just have a drink. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or just
I've
do
said
this.
that
Just
more
do this.
times
Yeah.
than not. Um,
Absolutely.
And it was really coming from the place of like, man, I had those thoughts and intuitions that this person's having tonight, but I didn't listen to those, and I chose instant gratification. So yeah, I think that was a great ending or last topic. We can wrap it up there, as you guys don't have anything.
I have a quote or something, or
Yeah,
a song.
yeah, let's get it.
Shout out Suicide Boys. So the gods envy us because we're mortal, because any moment might be our last. Everything's more beautiful because we're doomed.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to know we would be here forever, life would be pointless. But it's the fact that this journey could end any second of the day of your life. That's why you should wake up and choose delayed gratification and to live your life to the fullest. Do what makes you feel good. That's it. Any closing thoughts?
Go Pens, go Cowboys.
They go Cowboys.